The Telegraph is reporting that senior UK politicians are offering to support Telegraph journalist Allison Pearson after she was threatened with an investigation over a year-old social media post. What that media post is, nobody knows, because the police won't tell anyone exactly what they're getting at her for. Elon Musk has also thrown his weight behind Allison Pearson. But I have to remind everyone that she was threatened with investigation over a social media she posted as a private person, not for something she wrote in the Telegraph. So, in fact, she is no different from all the other people who've been jailed already for social media posts. The only difference between Allison Pearson and those other people is that those other people were middle-aged housewives, carers, those sorts of people. And Allison Pearson is a well-known celebrity journalist. She's a good journalist. And that's why she's got and she's a journalist for the Telegraph, which is why she has the Telegraph behind her. And what happened to her was published on X, and so that's why she's got Elon Musk behind her. But that's the only reason. She is, as a private person, not in any particular different position from the people who are already in jail at the behest of the Labour government. However, it's something that was started during the Conservative government as well. So this is absolutely not a party political issue. So what's all this about? It's about freedom of speech and the police state, which is gradually tightening its chokehold around the nation's neck. I'm Grannyopteryx. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, BitChute and Minds. Okay, so it all started with this article. My visit from police on Remembrance Sunday is living proof of our two-tier justice system. And what happened was this. She was accused of a non-crime hate incident from a year-old tweet. However, I don't think that's what's happened to her, because further down... Right, here we are. On Tuesday evening, Essex police issued a statement to the Telegraph saying that they were investigating me, that is Allison Pearson, under Section 17 of the Public Order Act 1986, relating to material allegedly, likely or intended to cause racial hatred. In other words, my tweet was being treated as a criminal matter rather than a non-crime hate incident. But that's not what I was told on Sunday. So the police pretended they were charging her with one sort of non-crime incident, and it turns out that once they'd got her into their interview room, they were going to be charging her with something far more serious. That in itself is a terrible thing to contemplate. The police turned up and said she was being accused of a non-crime hate incident, and it was to do with something I'd posted on X, formerly Twitter, a year ago. How much is she going to remember from that? Yes, and it was for stirring up racial hatred. So she said she was very embarrassed by the police on her doorstep. What did this post I wrote that offended someone say? I asked. The constable said he wasn't allowed to tell me that. So she was being accused of a crime and not being given the information about what crime it was. I'm quite sure the police, it's not that the police were not allowed to tell her, but that they didn't know themselves what she'd said. It had just been logged, but since the tweet was now deleted, they might not even have the original tweet. It looks to me like they're bluffing on that here, but yeah, we'll see about that. And then she asked, what's the name of the person who made the complaint against me? And the policeman said he wasn't allowed to tell me that either. So she was being accused of a crime that the police couldn't describe to her, and from a person the police couldn't describe to her. So she says, you can't give me my accuser's name. And the policeman said, it's not the accuser. They're called the victim. So already it's a crime, because you are only the victim of a crime. And then she said, she writes here, okay, you're here to accuse me of causing offence, but I'm not allowed to know what it is, nor can I be told whom I'm being accused by. How am I supposed to defend myself then? And she said clearly the police were dimly realised that there was something wrong with all of this. But that didn't stop them from standing on her doorstep. They wanted her to come for a voluntary interview, which she refused. All right, so that's the outline of the story. This has been reported in the Essex Guardian and the Standard, the Evening Standard, and another, the Essex Standard. So local papers have spoken about this, but not the other national papers. Well, only one more. I'll get to that in a minute. In fairness to Allison Pearson, she is not one of those people who wanted a law applied to other people but not to herself. She made a fuss about Lucy Connelly, who was imprisoned for a social media post here. And in this case, she compared it with something else. You know how this government have been releasing prisoners. To be clear, this child kidnapper and abuser is released from jail to make room for Lucy Connelly, a 41-year-old mum and childminder, jailed for 31 months for a racist tweet. And I'm not sure how racist it was. I haven't done that. But this guy is a very dangerous and vicious criminal who targeted a child. He actually posting himself, kidnapping and torturing his victim. And that was really a victim. And Pearson didn't say anything about this case. Julie Sweeney, who was also imprisoned for, this was following the Southport massacre. She put something not very nice on the internet. But Pearson did tweet about Peter Lynch. You see, Peter Lynch, the 61-year-old grandfather who's died in prison, was given an extremely harsh sentence for daring to question multiculturalism, writes Allison Pearson. And you know what? I am not entirely sure. I mean, it's a bit conspiratorial, but I wonder how much her trenchant defence of people like Peter Lynch gave the authorities the idea of... Look, it's not too much of a stretch to speculate that the reason for this attention Allison Pearson is getting from the police might have something to do with her defence of such people as Peter Lynch and Lucy Connelly. What do you think? Anyway, look, the Daily Mail, they printed the story as well. Journalist facing Kafkaesque probe after police officers knocked at her door over year-old social. You know, this is the Reader, so we don't have the whole headline here. But there's so many pop-ups and things on Daily Mail that it's just unreadable. And GB News also talked about this. So all the right-wing papers, apparently this guy is interviewing Professor Snape. Well, if you've got Professor Snape on side, then you're probably in the right area. However, Nothing from The Guardian, nothing from the Mirror, nothing from the other left-wing national papers. And as I said, on broadcast media, GB News interviews Professor Snape. But the BBC, I couldn't find anything about it on the BBC. I couldn't find anything about it on Sky either. So what does that tell us? It's the right-wing papers, or papers who are perceived as right-wing, that are talking about this. But the left-wing media, they're ignoring it. And I suspect that now, just before I carry on, I just want to talk about Katie Hopkins. I'd forgotten about her. Here we are. She released a video in which she said she knew why Allison Pearson had been singled out in this way. And she said Pearson had been caught by a law which had been made specifically to catch Katie Hopkins. And I'll leave a link in the description because it's a very interesting story, she has to say. But again, anyone who's talking about freedom, things that are considered right-wing issues, they're talking about this. The Free Speech Union are making a lot of fuss, and, people like me. But as I said, the Guardian and the Mirror, they're not saying anything. I suppose because they're towing the party line, and by that I mean the Labour Party line, and are not talking about free speech. So I think maybe the government's leaving them alone. I do not think it's coincidental that some high-profile freedom of speech journalist like Allison Pearson appears to have been targeted. I believe that this story will probably end up in some sort of black hole because the BBC and the general media aren't doing anything about it. So only people who access our far-right thuggery writings, we're the only ones who are going to know about this. Until, of course, it hits The Guardian or someone like that, which it won't do for a while until it's really too late. And do you think the Labour Party or anybody in the Labour Party is going to be bothered about this? No. Starmer is making lots of foreign visits. He's making the most of his premiership, isn't he? Keir Starmer needs to stop prioritising trips abroad, says the New Statesman, and you don't get much further left than that. They can see how he is too busy with his international agenda to worry about running the country. So nothing's going to get done, whatever the Free Speech Union or the Telegraph says, I'm afraid. Well, that's it. It's sort of depressing. It's sort of using that word rather a lot recently. We are sliding down a slippery slope here. If you're outside of Britain, if you're in America, just say a special prayer tomorrow morning when you get up. Not for us. We're making our own hell here. But just to give us the strength to continue until the next election. I can't wait for it. As one of my subscribers said in a comment underneath one of my videos, I said something like, I'm 80 now and I'm going to make sure I live another 5 years just so I can vote those bastards out of office. It was something like that. All right, well, that's something to look forward to, isn't it? Till next time. You can help my channel by subscribing and clicking the notification bell. That's quite important. And by sharing if you're so inclined. Links to my other channels and to donation methods are in the description. But the best way you can help is simply by clicking like and notify. Thank you.